As we raise the pride flag here in Amherst and in cities and towns across Massachusetts and the country this month, we must also raise our voices to call for equality and justice for all.
Massachusetts has long led the nation in the fight for equal rights, and today we celebrate that every person can marry whomever they love and live with pride as their authentic selves.
Senator Ed Markey and his office will always stand with the LGBTQ community as they continue to fight for equality, for justice, and for the recognition, respect, and dignity they deserve, not just during Pride Month, but every day of the year.
Throughout Senator Markey's service in Congress, he has fought for equal rights for all Americans, including members of the LGBTQ community who continue to face systemic discrimination, bigotry, and hate. We will not rest until our federal government protects every single person, no matter how they identify or who they love. We must protect trans youth who are facing unacceptable, cruel, and dangerous transphobic state legislation across the country. Yep. These bills lead to needless suffering in courtrooms, classrooms, and medical offices. Every child has a right to feel safe in their home, school, and community.
In order to combat homophobia and transphobia and work towards a more inclusive society, Senator Markey reintroduced the Gay and Trans Panic Defense Prevention Act last year to ban these bigoted defenses in federal courts. These defenses seek to excuse murder and assault by blaming the victim's gender or sexual orientation. Our courts must protect the civil rights of LGBTQ individuals, not encourage bigotry or excuse violence, especially towards Black trans women who continue to be the victims of exceedingly disproportionate and deadly violence.
All Americans deserve to be treated with dignity and humanity in our justice system and everywhere they go. Trans rights are human rights. LGBTQ rights are human rights, and no person should have to fear for their life because of who they are or who they love.
So this Pride Month and every day, let us celebrate the strength of the beautiful, diverse, and truly inspiring LGBTQ community. I told her she has to do this last part with me. Thank you, and happy Pride!
Thank you, and thank you to Ed Markey's office for including us in their celebrations. I would now like to introduce State Rep Mindy Dahm.
Thank you, Anna. I love Pride. I love everything about Pride. I loved, when I lived in New York, walking by Stonewall on Pride. I loved working in the Village. I loved being able to celebrate an inclusive community that's based on love. And in Massachusetts, we're lucky because we can do that. But we can't stand and just slap ourselves on the back and say, we've got it all together in Massachusetts. We can do more in Massachusetts, and we need to do more. One of the things I'm really fighting for in the next 6 weeks before the end of the session is that the legislature pass what I'm calling, for lack of a better way of saying it, a visibility agenda. And the visibility agenda would have a couple of bills that Senator Comerford and I have both introduced. One is called Gender X, which would make sure that Massachusetts allows for a non-binary gender option on every state form and application, and also allows, thank you, birth certificates to be changed easily. People should see themselves on forms. They shouldn't have to lie to be able to be a voter. They shouldn't have to lie to be a fisherman. They should be able to see themselves on the form and know that their state sees them too. When they identify as a different gender than they were born, they should be able to change their birth certificate. This is one of those situations that we are now behind. When Joe and I introduced this bill, we weren't behind. Now we are. The Registry of Motor Vehicles in Massachusetts already makes a non-binary gender option on driver's licenses. And guess what? The world did not stop turning on its axis. Last month, I know, it's incredible. Last month, because President Biden ordered it, the Department of Homeland Security allowed for passports to have non-binary gender options. So there goes the national security argument. So we've got to catch up. We aren't good enough yet. We're on the way, but we're not good enough. There are other pieces to this visibility agenda, making sure that gender-inclusive bathrooms are easy for contractors to make in all buildings that are considered state buildings, making sure our health education curriculum is not only medically accurate, age appropriate, and inclusive. When we hear that in Florida, they're saying, don't say gay, I have to tell you something. If we don't pass laws in Massachusetts, we'll be hearing that here too. And we need to make sure that we pass a law that says every child graduating from Massachusetts schools has had comprehensive, age-appropriate, inclusive health education. I just was speaking this afternoon with this incredibly brilliant young woman who's been appointed to the statewide Asian American Commission. She's the youth representative, and she's from Amherst. And she was talking about the importance of connecting all the different communities who are facing hate right now. And how do we do that? Do we have to wait, for something bad to happen in order to do that? Does government really only work? And with all due respect to my colleagues in elected office, do we only get that traffic light when there is an accident at the corner? Or can we be proactive in making those connections? So I know in the next couple weeks, June's going to be the time to do it. I'm going to work really hard to act on making connections between different communities. And here's why I'm picking June. I'm expecting a Supreme Court decision that's going to affect not just women and pregnant persons' ability to make decisions about their life, but I suspect it's going to impact people's right to marry whoever they want to marry. Because Roe is predicated on privacy, and so are all these other important advances. So we have to reach out. This Pride, we have to really say, we're going to reach out, and we're going to capitalize, we're going to maximize all these issues that are really painful that are going to happen around us, but we're going to use it as an opportunity to bring us together. So when that Supreme Court decision drops, we're going to be there to fight it. The next time there's gun violence against a group based on hate and racial issues, we're going to be there. We're going to come out to town hall and we're going to protest it. We're going to make the connections that some people don't want us to make, but which will give us power. And power and pride is what Pride is all about. So I hope you'll join me. I really appreciate the opportunity to say these few words. Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here with my community, and let's go raise some flags.
We will be reading the Town of Amherst Proclamation recognizing June as lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, queer, plus, LGBTQ plus Pride Month. The council sponsors are myself, Anna Dublin-Gauthier, and Pat DeAngelis, and our community sponsor, who deserves one more hand because he did not want to read with me, Evan Ross. Let's give him one more. Whereas, on June 28th, 1969, New York City police raided the Stonewall Inn, a gay club located in Greenwich Village, and sparked a riot, leading to 6 days of protests and violent clashes with law enforcement, known as the Stonewall Riots, which later served as the catalyst for the LGBTQ plus rights movement. And
whereas, in honor of the 1969 Stonewall Uprising and subsequent First Pride March in New York City in June 1970, each June, Americans come together to celebrate and honor the LGBTQ plus community. And whereas, since the Stonewall Uprising, the LGBTQ plus community has achieved significant progress, including the right to marriage equality across the country, state and federal workplace protections, and the Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Jr. Hate Crimes Prevention Act. And
whereas we celebrate and reflect upon the courage and accomplishments of the LGBTQ plus community, who continue to fight for progress towards securing important rights and freedoms to live freely and authentically, often through struggle and adversity. And
whereas the LGBTQ plus community has and continues to face systemic discrimination across the United States, including social stigma, challenges accessing health care and other basic social services, and increased rates of violence. And
whereas we remain vigilant and active against continued oppression and discrimination against the LGBTQ plus community, especially our trans community, and stand against any political efforts to overturn these hard-fought fought rights. And
Whereas we recognize that queer and trans people of color have been and remain at the forefront of that struggle for those rights, and whereas the town of Amherst values diversity and inclusion and is committed to equal rights, justice, and opportunity. And
Whereas Amherst recognizes the important contributions of the LGBTQ plus residents to the town's history, culture, economy, and civic life. And whereas we affirm our support for the LGBTQ residents and stand with plus residents and stand with them to protect their civil rights and ability to live openly without fear.
Now therefore, we, the Amherst Town Council, do hereby proclaim June 2022 as LGBTQ+ Pride Month.
Be it further proclaimed, we, the Amherst Town Council, encourage all residents to celebrate and affirm our proud and diverse LGBTQ+ community year-round. And be it further proclaimed, this proclamation will be recognized by raising the pride flag on the UN flagpole from June 3rd to June 30th, 2022. Woo!